I love the Electoral College. I love it. Because in America, at least we're honest. I mean, we are honest that we don't trust our voters. And the electoral system has shown it pretty clear that democracy does not belong in the hands of we the people. Welcome everybody to my series on anti-democratic politics in the US. And I'm just here to remind you that every 4 years, people look forward to seeing the parades, the great happenings of candidates who will win, who will lose, but not me, no, not me. I look forward every few years to seeing the new ads reminding us how the Electoral College actually works. And as you can maybe hear before my dog barking, even my dog is pissed off about it. And here's the thing, people. In other countries, they actually don't have the popular vote because it's just called voting. Only in America, you get to do your civic duty and you don't get to have the final say. Patriot approved. And here's the thing. A lot of people don't realize how the Electoral College actually got to form. So let me just remind you, indulge me if you will. So it was said that on a dark, cold, wintry night in a tavern in the far ends of America, young Alexander Hamilton was drinking a beer, and he said, "Let there be democracy, but first let there be an electoral college system." Now, it's important to remember that at this point, America was a dark, dangerous place with tons of treasonous people. We had many instances of the British and even Americans that still wanted to be part of the British colonies. And so Alexander Hamilton said, "Let there be the Electoral College." Because basically the Electoral College, upon the rhetoric, was made to prevent any candidate with treasonous intentions who was actually representing another nation come to power into America. In other words, the Electoral College would be in charge of overseeing that the office of the president will never fall into the lot of any man who is not in an eminent degree endowed with a prerequisite qualification of being president. And then they elected a Donald Trump, who was obviously the best choice. I mean, the man definitely does not have a treasonous bone in his body, and he definitely has not had strange dealings with other nations, such as Putin and Netanyahu. So there was this, and also the fact that let's be honest, they did not want the people to vote. Let's be honest. And look, I might have exaggerated the whole windy evening with young Alexander Hamilton, but I am not exaggerating this. In his last days in office, Alexander Hamilton did say our real disease is democracy. And we let that man put up the Electoral College. Guys, what the fuck? So, how does the Electoral College system actually work? So, there are 538 electors throughout the US, representing both Congress and the Senate. And then there's 3 for DC. Now, remember people, DC does not get to vote. And the Electoral College members are supposed to represent our votes. So, what is that extra 3 representing? What are the extra 3 votes from DC representing if DC doesn't even get to vote? Pretty fishy. And so here is this very interesting statistic. So let's calm down for a second and get really hard into the numbers, because small states, more Republican, conservative states, have way more power than liberal and progressive big states. So Wyoming gets 1 vote for every 135,000 people. Now, California, on the other hand, gets 1 vote for every 411,000 people. Basically, if you are a small state, you have nearly 3 times the power of a big state. Or in other words, if you live in California or in any of the big states, you're kind of fucked. And this overrepresents rural areas and tend to be extremely conservative. So let me read you a small quote. 15% of America's counties generate 64% of America's gross domestic product. Most of the country's economic activity is on the East Coast, West Coast, and a few metropolitan areas in between. The prosperous parts of America include 15 states having 30 senators, while the less prosperous areas encapsulate 35 states having 70 senators. Yay, democracy! Woo! Um, so, people are still wondering, how does a person get elected to the Electoral College? So, another quote: the political parties in each state choose slates of potential electors, sometimes before the general election. During the general election, the voters in each state select their state's electors by casting their ballots. Basically, if you're not one of the two major political parties, you're not going to get in. And there was an article in The Hill, and it basically said there's no reason to vote for a third party in America. Not because they have bad ideas, but simply our system does not support it, and you're kind of wasting your vote. What? Guys, I should not have to be the one to tell that this is simply wrong, and we cannot call ourselves a democracy. And even though we've been called a flawed democracy in the past, we are not even a flawed democracy. We're just straight up not a democracy. So, in other words, if you're not a Republican or a Democrats, no votes. And this is not democratic. And then there's the swing states. The swing states give so much power to political parties that in recent elections, and here's a figure, you can look this up to 80% of all votes in America had nearly no impact. Yikes. I don't even have the words, people. I don't even have the words. That's how bad it is. And then there is the winner takes all method used by most states. So let's go over the winner takes all method. So, if you will, candidate A gets more votes than candidate B. Even if by one more vote, then all of the Electoral College votes from candidate B go towards candidate A. Basically, it's a winner takes all system, and the winner takes all the votes, and all the votes get kind of lost. So a lot of people have said that there is no reason to vote, because if I'm in a Republican state, then all the votes are going to go towards that candidate in the winner takes all system. How disgusting is that? And look, here's the thing. I should not be the one to tell you on this channel that we deserve our votes. The fact that I even have to say this is wrong. I should not have to be saying this, and yet I have to. And yet we need to talk about this, because the time for the Electoral College has passed, and you can argue about how the electoral system might work, but we are past those days. It is non-democratic, and it was made in a time when women, children, and people who were not white male landowners did not get to vote, simply because if you weren't a rich white male landowner, you weren't even considered human. And here's another interesting fact. Nowhere in the original Constitution does it actually say that you have a right to vote. And so people say that we need to get rid of the Electoral College, and I say right. But this is the tricky part. There is something in political science called Duverger's law. And that states that whenever there is a single winner vote, so you vote for one single person, it only reinforces and solidifies the two-party system. And our entire political system was built only to support Duverger's law. And so this is where we need to be careful. Yes, we need to abolish the Electoral College system. But also, we need to put in ranked choice voting. I mean, ranked choice voting is what supports third-party systems. And it's what basically would have made a Bernie be possible in America. And instead, we got an either Kamala or Trump situation. And look, you could disagree with Bernie. You could disagree with the Democratic Socialists, the Green parties, or any other third political party. But the simple fact is, they deserve as much as a right to get voted in as the rest of the political parties. It should not be just Democrats or just Republicans. And the reason why I'm telling you this is because there is going to be an election. And we need to make sure that much more than looking who to elect as president, we need to elect the right members to Congress and to the Senate because there we do have a direct vote. And if our representatives don't want to abolish our Electoral College, they might just as well say that they don't think that we deserve to vote. And we deserve to vote. The people deserve to vote. We demand it. And we cannot trust a candidate who doesn't think that we have an inherent right to vote. We should get to vote for our president. As I said before, the very fact that I'm telling you this shows what a clusterfuck our system is. And now there's another issue. We have the Electoral College system. We abolish it. Okay, now we're going to put ranked choice voting, meaning that you can vote for multiple candidates with your first one being your preference. And then I say that we should do something more. We need transparency. The fact that still people get to deny Trump's fanatical, fascist actions means that people don't only support his actions, but simply are unaware. And they're unaware because they want to stay unaware. And instead of the Electoral College, here is what I propose. I propose a college of elector information, a college of voter information. Let's call it that. Basically, a private, nonpartisan system or a nonpartisan institution used to bring light on how candidates have voted on the past. Where have they gotten their funding from? What parties do they support? What movements do they support? We need something that is unpartisan and unbiased. And I know people will say that this is impossible, but this is what we need because all the information is out there, but it's so clustered that there is no real single space where every voter can know, okay, I can go on this website and I can find what Trump has done that has been wrong in the past 4 years, or what have Democrats done that has been wrong in the past 4 years that I don't agree with, or what have the third parties have done wrong, or what have they done right for that matter. We need transparency, and there is not enough voter transparency, and we need this at a national level, and it should be promoted. And here is another thing. A lot of people don't know that when you get your voter bulletin it's a little pamphlet, and there's writing on it with a photo, candidates actually have to pay for that. And that should not be up to the candidates. It should be impartial. You should know who you're voting for regardless. And the fact that candidates have to pay for that is wrong. And here's the thing. It's just anti-democratic, which is why we need it all in one place online where people can have it accessible to them. And so I just want to remind you this. First off, get pissed. Join me in being pissed. That's the main message of this channel, and in saying that we live in undemocratic institutions. But go vote for your members in Congress. Go vote for your members in the Senate. Those are the votes that definitely matter. And even if people will keep saying we will never overturn the Electoral College in an amendment, we owe it to ourselves to try. That's like saying, oh no, I'm going to get old and I'm never going to get out of bed because I know I'm going to die one day. That's basically the same rhetoric. That's like defeatist. We owe it to ourselves to try, and we owe it to ourselves to be impartial to who we vote for and to know who we are voting for. And I don't want any of that middleman voting for me. It's simple. I'm an American and I want to vote for my president. It should not be that complicated. And the fact that every 4 years we have advertisements reminding us how the Electoral College system worked is wrong. So this is the first real video in my anti-democratic series. In the next episode, we are going to talk about the 3/5 compromise. And if you don't know about the 3/5 compromise, it's a disgusting thing that basically gave more power to southern states through not counting people, their full humanity through votes. And so stay tuned. Remember to like, subscribe. This is what allows me to do videos like this. And remember, your vote should matter. And hold your representatives and candidates accountable. We, the people, should have the final say.